What's up, guys? Welcome to Run My Crypto, guys, the baddest podcast that is out there in the crypto world. Guys, I'm here not to make you guys want to buy crypto. I'm here for you guys to stay in crypto for the long haul. Guys, we're in some crazy madness with Bitcoin. I essentially thought we're going to hold, but then Bitcoin took a big dip, and these institutional players, they just keep playing. They keep messing with this damn Bitcoin, and that's getting wild. But guys, we're going to talk about some IoT, a little bit of data, and some AI technology that combines to manifest into some major money in the future. So what we need to do is prepare ourselves now mentally against these institutions. Guys, everybody was begging for institutions. Now the institutions are here. What can we do? Now we got to hold. We got to try to fight against it. We got to keep dollar cost averaging into our portfolios. Guys, so here's like my perspective of the bull run. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm going to dive into some receipts, or essentially show you guys some what I like to call theory behind some projects that have shown signs of bull strength. But I'm also going to show you that there's a lot of projects that are still in that disbelief area. Now, all of this, in my opinion, is driven by Bitcoin institutional finagling with the dang market. But guys, you can't position yourself, guys, because the US is about to print money like never before. So positioning yourself for this major print, and you guys, if you studied economy and you know how it is, that the US is going to induct quite a bit of money into our economy. So we will see these huge interventions. Look, the institutional players, what they're doing is basically suppressing the price of Bitcoin so they could capitalize on as much as they possibly can. Now, they want this asset to be very expensive so that when the value of currency goes down, of fiat currency goes down, the Bitcoin asset and the asset classes inside cryptocurrency will be worth some big money. They want everybody to get scared, shooken out. But guys, stay strong, because the strong are going to be the ones that succeed in this 2026 bull run. And I put it down that that's when it's going to happen. So let's get into, before we get into this Jasmy AI IoT data infrastructure, again, we will touch on some of these projects that are still showing signs. I'm going to show you projects that have shown that leg up, that bull sentiment. And then I'm going to show you some that are ready to blast off and make some headway in this bull run. So let's get into it. Before we dive into this information with these crypto altcoins, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification. Make sure you guys are staying involved with Run My Crypto and the Crypto Blueprint, or the Blueprint. Link is in the description under the Patreon, and we do also have my X account. So make sure you guys are following me, because we're going to get it saucy this year. We're going to finish out this year strong with some great content coming your way. And then also we're going to go into 2026 as winners and setup. We're going to have the mindset as winners. We're going to have the ability to choose these projects that are going to win. And then you're also going to have the ability to continuously do it over and over again, because you got the blueprint. So guys, check it out. Link is in the description. All right, let's jump into these altcoins, where I'm going to show you that this bull run hasn't even really kicked off for the altcoins. I'm essentially, hopefully you guys can see this. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving in there. Hopefully you can. If not, I want you to pay attention over here to this anger stage. This anger stage on the right hand side. If you don't see my mouse, you see how we got that leg up and then everything washed down. So if you look at certain projects like Jasmy, like, you know, some of the low cap, it almost shows that they're like falling behind, right? So they're trailing behind, because we know Bitcoin potentially has rode up into this hope and disbelief area on the left hand side and fell back down to that 87. Like, I believe this zone right here on the left hand side shows where Bitcoin has fallen down back into that 87,000, 90,000. And Bitcoin will start to pump up and go into that hope, optimism, belief, thrill, and euphoria. So I believe that's still ahead of us with Bitcoin. I also believe that altcoins are trailing behind back here that haven't even hit into that first stage of depression, right? So, we had a big pump in December of last year. Throughout the entire year, it fell down to the bottom where this bottom point is before you get into that depression zone, and then we get into that leg up. That's exactly where I think we're at, in my opinion, in my validation, because let me pull up some projects to show you what I'm talking about. You got your hope and belief area, right? But what I want you to focus in on is essentially this disbelief, leg up, and then drop into this valley right here. So if we look at Big Papa Bitcoin, we had, that dip down, and then we had that big leg up that took us up to 123,000. Then we dropped back down into that pocket. And looking at here, we had a rally up, right? And then drop back into the pocket. Now, essentially, we could be in this area, this range right here too, also of disbelief, where we dropped into this bottom pocket down where disbelief lettering is, and are ready to rise up and continue going to the upside for Bitcoin, which could potentially take Bitcoin to a phenomenal level. And this is on the year, guys. So we're on the year. And again, look, we drop into a pocket, we get a run up. It's kind of massive, not too crazy, but it's that 80 some $1,000 pocket. What is it? 76,000 in 2025 of April. Then we rally up to that 123,000 level, but we still haven't seen like a huge significant gain from this level. And this is just looking at the year, right? Then we go into something like BNB. Okay, so we switch over to BNB, and you could see that we have that long stretch, and then we hit that leg up. We go into a rally and then back down to a pocket. So Bitcoin essentially is leading this rally, right? And then you have BNB behind it, trailing, showing that, there is some movement, but it kind of looks like this area, or it could be this area, depending on how we gauge from disbelief to hope, how high that really is and what that really looks like. But essentially, everything's really trailing in this area right here of depression going into disbelief. So that basically tells me that we're barely on the front or the cusp of a bull run going into effect. Now, understanding your mindset and having that understanding that there still is plenty of room, because if you think about it, I mean, we can't really fall into a bear market because essentially most of the charts on the year are not, there's not so much of significant gaining value in there. Look at something like Polygon. Again, we have a small pump coming out of here in last year, 2024, and then obviously the entire year it's going down into that valley, right? So we had a small pump and then go down into that valley. So we're really on the beginning of hitting barely the cusp of the bull run. Look at Ethereum. Ethereum's showing the same thing. It dipped down into the valley, had that leg up, and then retraced back down into that pitch. That's, understanding that's super important. You got internet computer, the same thing, valued for the majority of the entire year. Now we're starting to see some traction and getting some movement into going into a bigger leg up. Chainlink, same thing. We're kind of, on that sideways action. These are like dips, little pump, and then dip back into the valley. Basically putting everything looking like we're just coming out of a bear market, getting ready to go into a bull run. If you think about it and you put it into perspective and you look at it with this type of mindset, we are basically coming out of the bear market, right? Because we can't, and everything looks like it's basically in the anger to depression range, right? Majority of projects look like anger to depression range. So everything's getting ready to start. We have not seen any type of optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria, any of that occur in this current market cycle. Looking at Jasmy, the same thing. We've been in, we had a pump last year and then down into that valley of the shadow of death, right? And that's kind of what we see here. We had a pump up down into the valley of the shadow of death, and we're getting ready to go into some major action. So I believe, in my perspective, that Bitcoin is going to go crazy, and I think we could get 250,000 out of Bitcoin, maybe even more, especially with these huge institutions playing with the market, and everything else is trailing behind in that anger, depression area. So that makes me super bullish on this bull run that's coming up in 2026. I believe in 2026 we're going to be seeing it kill in these areas of optimism through euphoria for Bitcoin, altcoins, and microcaps. All these microcaps that have tremendous utility behind them, and that are going to really change the dynamics of the way that Web3 is played out in this new bull run that's coming in 2026. So guys, on this last segment, I really want to touch on how IoT and data and AI work together. So Internet of Things, and this is going geared towards Jasmy and Janction, because together they combined have created a solid ecosystem and a platform for users to be able to utilize IoT and utilize AI, and also integrate GPU rendering with this Janction implementation for Jasmy, which is literally going to take Jasmy, I believe, to the next level. When you think about it, you know, IoT is essentially like the data collection. Every IoT device gathers raw data. What do you think that, you know, are the most common things? It's going to be smart cars, warehouse sensor monitoring, just like Amazon. You have the medical wearable devices, you know, pacemakers, all those electronic technology items that human beings use on a day-to-day. That's where IoT comes in to play in that, I guess, portion of life that's really necessary for everybody. Data actually fuels this information, because with the data collection and something like PDL, right? PDL is basically going to catapult information to big time companies, and your data is going to be become an investment, because you're utilizing some type of form of IoT that's important to big businesses, and they will essentially use Jasmy to pay out for, you know, any type of information or data that you could provide for these big companies. I guess basically, to sum it all up, what benefit does Jasmy bring to the world? Well, Jasmy, the way that they're positioned and what they could contribute to society and contribute to a global scale of infrastructure, is essentially being able to utilize their project or their platform and their utility inside potential smart cities. What else do they have? You know, there's a lot of different variations, like when it comes to you checking out at grocery stores and having to enter data. Say that, you know, you want to create a profile to go shopping, right? So you'd use Jasmy, IoT, Janction combined to basically, you know, control your identity. And as far as, you know, you wanting to say, hey, here, scan my Jasmy badge and now I'll pay for all my groceries with that, something like that. It's important to the future, because protecting your personal identity in the future is going to be very highly important, because the way that we're going with technology and everything else, there's going to be a huge demand for privacy, personal privacy in your personal data, because there's going to be a big wide range of different technologies that we haven't even thought of yet that are going to come out. I mean, we look at perfect examples of how far technologies comes from just the 1980s to where we are now. You know, it's huge, and it feels like, you know, we're very loose with our personal data, and we're very loose with just going on and logging on to some website, putting our information in there, putting our, you know, our ATM card, debit card information. You know, there's got to be some layers of personal protection when it comes to your data, your information, and a lot of things like that. So that's my perspective on how Jasmy will continue growing, and Janction being able to take Jasmy to that level. There are tons of other great projects out there. Stay tuned. Make sure you're liking and subscribe, because we're going to be coming out with some good videos. We're going to come out with videos that are going to you're going to learn how to position yourself in these micro cap, lower cap projects before this bull run goes in effect, and position yourself to make massive money. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Take care, guys. Love you. Be blessed. I'll see you guys on the next one.